Welcome back to Crazy Dave's Kitchen, where today we're making a Chinese scallion bread. And the ingredients for this bread are 1 2/3 cup of all-purpose flour, and then the one kind of special ingredient for this that may require a little extra work is finding a sweet glutinous rice flour. And if you buy the non-gluten rice flour at the store, you may have to go to an Asian specialty store to find this. I found this online. Just wanted to show you what the package looks like. So it's a 1/4 cup of the sweet glutinous rice flour. And again, I believe Chinese specialty store or the Chinese section or even a Japanese store should have that. So we've got our all-purpose flour. We have our rice flour. We're going to have scallions. You can't have scallion bread. We're going to chop these up when the bread is rising or when the dough is rising. We don't want to bruise them and have them sitting around and, you know, not ready to use right away. So everything fresh. I also have here some honey, 1 tablespoon of honey that we're going to mix with 3/4 cup of warm water to make the dough. We have our instant yeast. We have 1 teaspoon of instant yeast. I also have 1 teaspoon of kosher salt. We're going to be using some sesame oil in this recipe, and we're also going to be using some grapeseed oil. And this bread, sesame seeds. We can't have an Asian sesame bread without, Chinese sesame bread without sesame seeds. So sesame seeds, 4 tablespoons of sesame seeds divided. So 2 tablespoons each. And we'll kind of get into that as we go along. This bread is going to be not baked in the oven. It's going to be cooked in a frying pan on your stovetop. So a little something different for the kitchen. So let's go ahead and add our flours into our mixing bowl. We're going to add our dry ingredients, our salt, our yeast, and then we are going to add our honey into the water and kind of whisk the honey water mixture together before going on and pouring the water into the dough. So let's just get that honey water mixture whisked together. I have my little tiny, ridiculously tiny whisk over here. We're going to go ahead and put in our dough hook. Eventually, we're going to go ahead and have that mix. Now, while this is mixing, this could be about 3 or 4 minutes to get the dough to come together. If the dough is a little bit sticky, we can always add about a tablespoon at a time, no more than 3 tablespoons of our regular all-purpose flour. But this should work out. So we're going to let this mix until it creates and pulls away from the sides of the bowl a nice firm, sticky. It's going to be a little sticky dough. All right, so now we can see that it's clearly pulled away from the bowl, and it's a little bit tacky. It's not quite as sticky as I expected it to be, but you can see it's a nice shape. It all kind of came together, pulled away. We are going to take a small bowl or medium bowl, and I'm just going to put, now that I have this out, I'm just going to put a teaspoon of this sesame oil, sesame seed oil, sesame oil. Just going to put a teaspoon in this bowl. Now we're just going to coat the sides of the bowl with the sesame oil. And then we're going to move our dough into this, like so. We're going to just form this into a nice ball. Coat the bottom. We're going to coat the top. And then this is going to sit covered in plastic wrap for about an hour. And once that's well rested and all come together, we'll come back and we'll start forming it and putting our scallions and so forth on the bread. So let's let this sit for an hour and we'll be back and show you the final putting it together process. And we'll go from there. Okay, so we're back and our dough has risen for the hour. And I've also cut up the scallions. So 1 bunch scallions cut up, and then I put in 2 teaspoons of sesame oil and mixed it in with the scallions. And they're quite fragrant. This is why you don't want to do it ahead of time, because you really want that to be fresh and fragrant and ready to go. So we're just going to take our dough out. On this cookie sheet, I have 1 teaspoon of sesame oil on this cookie sheet. And we're really just going to spread out our dough and form it, have it form about a 12 by 9 area on the cookie sheet. And the reason why we oiled it was to make the dough slide a little nicer. You don't want it to go too thin. I should have put this on something so the cookie sheet doesn't slide, but we'll figure it out. All right, so work with me, dough, right? Talk to your dough. Make it work with you. Got a ways to go here still. You're not sure what 12 by 9 is supposed to look like, do what I did and measure it with a tape measure so you can get a rough idea of how far you'll need to go. And we're almost there. Should be more of a square, rectangular a little bit. I'm going to pull back a little bit, but it's all right. All right, we're about where we need to be. So this is where the fun part begins. We're going to take our scallions and we're going to sprinkle them all over the dough. Just like so. If some fall out onto the tray, that's fine. Get the rest here. All right. Spread them around as even as possible. The tricky part's coming up. It won't be too bad. I also have 1 teaspoon of additional salt, and we're just going to sprinkle this over the scallions haphazardly as possible. And now we're going to roll this into a tube, rolling the scallions into the dough. And again, if some of them fall out, it's no big deal. It's not gonna matter if you lose 1 or 2. I'm gonna roll this up. I told you this is where the fun part is, right? It should come together pretty nicely. So here we go. We're just at the end. We're gonna try to pull this back a little bit. And then we get the seam up here, and we're going to just pinch and seal the bottom. I don't know why my voice is cracking today, but it is. Pinch the bottom as best you can to kind of form a seal. Again, if some scallions are poking through, it's not a big deal. I'm going to pinch the end, and then we're going to roll it around, pinch the end, and then we're going to roll this into a snail shape. We're just going to take the dough, form it into a snail just like this, tucking the underneath part under. And then we're going to press this out. Already my under part is failing me, and my seam on the side here is also failing me. And then we're just going to smash this down to form about a 10-inch circle for our 10-inch pan that we're going to cook on the stove. So we're going to smash this down best we can. We may have to smash it again once we put it onto the pan. I don't think this is quite 10 inches, but I'm going to go ahead and add the 2 tablespoons of sesame seeds to this side of the bread. We're going to press these sesame seeds in, kind of push them down with your hands, just like so. It's coming around great. We're going to flip this over, all like so. We're going to take the other 2 tablespoons of sesame seeds and pour these over the second side of the scallion bread. And we're going to press that in. Now in the frying pan, I have 2 tablespoons of grapeseed oil that are in the pan already. And the reason why it's grapeseed oil has better durability for high heat, cooking in high heat. So grapeseed oil, it's a little pricey, but you can find lots of ways to use it. It's also great for making salad dressings with. So here's our circle. I'm going to just grab the pan here. And again, I have the grapeseed oil in the bottom of the pan. We're going to carefully lift our scallion bread into the pan. And again, I'm just going to press it out a little bit further, just so it fills the bottom of the pan. And if some scallions come loose, again, it's all right. It's all going to kind of work out in the end. So we're going to press this in here. And now we're going to let this sit for about 30 minutes with a lid on so the dough can rise again. So here we go, just like that. We're going to let this sit with a lid on, and then we're going to come back in 30 minutes and we'll be stove side to finish cooking and making our Chinese scallion bread. All right, so our Chinese sesame bread, Chinese sesame scallion bread has been sitting in the pan now and rising for 30 minutes, and now we're ready to start cooking. So with the lid on, we're going to turn this to about medium. I'm going to go with 4 here. And I'm going to set a timer for 5 minutes. It's really about 5 to 6 minutes, and we're just going to let this cook. And then after the first cook, we're going to grab some tongs along with a spatula. We're going to flip it over and let it cook for an additional 3 minutes, and then we'll be enjoying our Chinese sesame scallion bread. And even if some scallions are showing like on the top there, it really doesn't matter. It's all going to bake in and be delicious. So now we just wait. Okay, there's our 5-minute timer. We're going to go ahead and uncover. And just make sure that this is ready to flip. I don't know the best angle. The best angle to get to this. I'm going to make sure that it's brown. I think we have a little. That's coming undone. I think we've got a little bit more time to go here. It's lightly brown. So you give it a few more minutes here. That's the great thing about baking, is you never really know when it's going to be done. But we're definitely close. All right, there we go. That's a good flip. Came apart a little bit, but it's all right. You can see it's nice and brown, toasted, just the way we need it. Now we're just going to set a quick 3-minute timer for the back side. That looks perfect. And it did come undone a little bit, but that's all right. That adds to the mystique of baking on the stovetop. This is the first time we've ever baked on the stovetop as well. There's a lot of really good skillet recipes out there, so expect to see a little bit more of this on Crazy Dave's Kitchen moving forward. Okay, so there's our timer for the second side. We're just going to bring this off the heat, bring it over onto a cooling rack, and then that's going to cool for a whopping 10 minutes. And then once it's cooled, we'll be able to cut it up and enjoy our Chinese scallion and sesame bread, or actually Chinese sesame scallion bread. So here we are. Here's our finished Chinese scallion bread. And you can see the scallions are coming right out of the bread. It's a very soft, very chewy type of a bread. And it just smells great, tastes great. Forward of sesame seeds, obviously. Very tasty bread. Great by itself. Fantastic with some soup. Highly recommend giving this bread a shot. I know it seems dicey with the flipping and all of that, but you'll get good at it. I'm horrible at flipping things, but don't be scared about it. Give it a shot. Try this bread. I think you'll really like it. It's very tasty, very aromatic, and very good. So thanks again for tuning in to Crazy Dave's Kitchen, and we'll see you next time.